Life constantly tests us with challenges, failures, and obstacles, but it is persistence, determination, and the refusal to give up that separate winners from quitters. Success is not about how many times we fall, but about how many times we rise. The journey is never easy, but those who push forward, even in the face of difficulties, carve their place in history. The power of perseverance is one of the greatest forces that drive human beings toward their goals, and it has always been the invisible ingredient behind every success story that has ever inspired generations. Perseverance is not simply the act of continuing. It is the art of moving forward when everything around you seems to be pulling you back, the ability to stay on the path when the storms of doubt, failure, and adversity are hitting from every direction. When we talk about winners never quitting, it is perseverance that defines the truth, because without perseverance, even the most talented, gifted, and intelligent individuals often fall short. Talent may open the first door, but perseverance is what keeps you walking through hallways filled with obstacles until you reach the final destination. It is perseverance that transforms dreams into reality, because dreams without persistence are nothing but fleeting wishes that vanish as soon as challenges appear. Think of all the great achievers in history. None of them reached their heights because the journey was easy. Every one of them endured countless moments when giving up would have seemed like the easier choice, but it was perseverance that kept them going. Thomas Edison, for example, failed thousands of times before inventing the light bulb, and when asked about his failures, he famously responded that he had not failed but had found thousands of ways that didn't work. What gave him this mindset? It was perseverance, the conviction that if he just kept going, kept testing, and kept trying, he would eventually succeed. Perseverance does not guarantee immediate results, but it guarantees eventual results if combined with effort and learning. The individual who perseveres is not necessarily the one with the best resources, but the one with the strongest spirit, the ability to stay in the fight long after others have walked away. Perseverance is the quiet, uncelebrated effort you put in every single day when no one is watching, when no one is clapping, and when no results seem to be appearing. Yet over time, those small, consistent efforts compound into something extraordinary when life gets tough. Perseverance is the voice in your head that tells you to take one more step, to make one more attempt, to try one more time, even after 100 failures. Without it, progress stops at the first obstacle. But with it, every obstacle becomes a stepping stone. Perseverance teaches patience, because results do not always come when you want them to, but they come to those who keep showing up regardless of delays. It is perseverance that separates the story of the person who almost made it from the story of the person who actually made it. If you look at athletes, entrepreneurs, inventors, leaders, or anyone who has left a mark on the world, their defining quality is not that they never failed, but that they never allowed failure to be the end of their story. They kept persevering even when they were tired, discouraged, and doubted by others. This persistence creates resilience, and resilience builds champions. Perseverance is not just about effort, it is also about mindset. A persevering individual sees failure not as defeat, but as feedback. They understand that every challenge faced is another lesson learned, and every lesson learned brings them closer to success. This mindset allows them to push forward when others stop. Imagine a mountain climber who faces storms, avalanches, and steep cliffs. Many would turn back, but the climber with perseverance keeps going step after step because he knows that the only way to the peak is through persistence. Life works in the same way. The peak of your dreams is not reached by avoiding difficulties, but by persevering through them. Each setback faced with perseverance becomes a muscle built in your character, a tool sharpened in your arsenal, preparing you for the greater battles ahead. Without perseverance, even the most brilliant ideas remain unfulfilled, but with perseverance, even average ideas can create extraordinary success. The power of perseverance lies also in its ability to outlast opposition. Many times, success is simply about staying in the game longer than others. People often underestimate the time it takes to achieve something significant. They try for a few months, maybe a year, and when results don't show, they quit. But those who persevere, those who are willing to put in the years of hard work, those who refuse to be distracted by the short-term disappointments are the ones who eventually win. Perseverance is not glamorous, but it is powerful, because while others stop, you keep moving, and that alone creates separation. It is perseverance that allows the student who struggles at first to eventually master the subject, the athlete who was once overlooked to rise to the top, and the entrepreneur who once failed to eventually build a thriving empire. The world rarely remembers the ones who quit, but it always remembers the ones who persevered through the storm and reached the other side. At times, perseverance feels lonely. You may be walking a path that no one else believes in. You may hear voices telling you that it's impossible, that it's not worth it, that you should quit and choose something easier. But perseverance gives you the courage to silence those voices, to trust your own vision, even when others doubt it. It gives you the inner strength to rise each morning and keep working, even when you have no external validation. Over time, perseverance not only builds success, it builds character. It teaches you discipline, patience, resilience, and humility. It humbles you by reminding you that nothing great comes without struggle, and it strengthens you by reminding you that you can endure far more than you ever imagined. The journey of perseverance is often uncomfortable, but it is in discomfort that growth takes place. Every time you push through a challenge, your capacity expands, and your belief in yourself grows stronger. Perseverance is also contagious. When others see you refusing to quit, when they see you persisting despite obstacles, it inspires them to do the same. A persevering individual becomes a beacon of hope, a living example that challenges can be overcome if one does not give up. History's greatest leaders were not only perseverant for themselves, their perseverance lit a fire in others. They showed people that it is possible to endure, to keep going, and to reach a better future. In this way, perseverance not only transforms your own life, but also influences the lives of those around you. It creates a ripple effect, spreading strength, courage, and determination. That is the power of perseverance. It multiplies its impact far beyond the individual who practices it. If you truly want to understand the power of perseverance, imagine two runners in a marathon. One is fast but lacks endurance, and the other is steady and relentless. At the beginning, the fast runner seems unbeatable. But as the race drags on, fatigue sets in, distractions appear, and the fast runner loses pace. The steady runner, though slower, continues without stopping, never giving up, and eventually crosses the finish line. That is perseverance, not flashy, not immediate, but consistent, relentless, and victorious in the long run. Life's greatest achievements are marathons, not sprints, and those who persevere are the ones who finish them. Learning from failure is one of the most essential qualities of every successful person, because no great achievement has ever been accomplished without moments of falling short, without trials that ended in disappointment, or without attempts that did not produce the desired outcome. Failure is often misunderstood as the end of the road, when in reality it is simply a part of the journey, a teacher in disguise and a necessary stepping stone on the path to success. The truth is, those who succeed are not those who never fail, but those who know how to transform their failures into lessons, their mistakes into insights, and their setbacks into stepping stones that propel them forward with greater wisdom and determination. To learn from failure means to extract meaning from disappointment, to find value in what went wrong, and to use that knowledge to rise stronger, sharper, and more prepared for the next opportunity. When a person embraces failure as part of growth, they stop fearing it, and once fear of failure disappears, the courage to attempt great things emerges. Failure reveals truth in ways that success never can. Success often hides weaknesses because it gives the illusion that everything is working perfectly, but failure exposes the cracks, the gaps, and the flaws that must be addressed in order to grow. When someone fails, they are forced to analyze, to reflect, and to confront the reality of what went wrong. This process builds self-awareness, and self-awareness is one of the most powerful tools in personal and professional growth. Without failure, there is no reflection, and without reflection, there is no growth. Failure also builds humility, teaching us that no matter how skilled, intelligent, or experienced we are, mistakes are inevitable, and setbacks are universal. This humility keeps us open-minded, eager to learn, and willing to adapt. Those who never fail often live in comfort zones, avoiding challenges that could stretch them. But those who embrace failure learn more in a single mistake than others do in years of playing safe. History is filled with individuals whose greatest successes were born from failures. Abraham Lincoln faced repeated defeats in his political career before becoming one of the most respected presidents. Michael Jordan, considered the greatest basketball player of all time, was once cut from his high school basketball team. Steve Jobs was fired from his own company before returning to make Apple a global leader in technology. In each of these stories, failure was not the final chapter, but the critical turning point that taught invaluable lessons. These individuals did not allow failure to define them. Instead, They defined failure by using it as fuel. The difference between those who stay down and those who rise lies in perspective. Some people see failure as proof they are not capable, while others see failure as evidence that they are on the right path. Because the road to mastery always includes mistakes. If you want to achieve anything meaningful, you must be willing to fail. And more importantly, you must be willing to learn from those failures. Learning from failure requires courage, because it means confronting uncomfortable truths about yourself and your efforts. It is easier to blame circumstances, people, or bad luck, but true growth happens when you take responsibility. Owning your failures does not mean blaming yourself harshly, but acknowledging that every action has consequences and that you can influence the outcome next time by making better choices. This level of accountability transforms failure into empowerment. Instead of being a victim of circumstances, you become an active participant in your own growth. The more you practice this, the more resilient you become, because each failure no longer feels like a crushing defeat, but like a training session designed to make you stronger. Over time, you begin to see failure not as an enemy, but as a coach, one that pushes you beyond your comfort zone into areas of growth you would have never reached otherwise. Failure also builds resilience by forcing you to develop the mental and emotional toughness required to keep going when things don't go as planned. Every time you recover from a failure, you are training your mind to withstand adversity. You learn to handle disappointment, rejection, and frustration without being broken by them. This resilience is one of the most valuable qualities in life, because no path is smooth and no dream is free of obstacles. Those who have learned how to face failure without collapsing are the ones who eventually rise above the rest. Failure teaches patience, because results often take longer than expected, and it teaches perseverance, because quitting after failure ensures that the lesson is wasted, while continuing allows the lesson to bear fruit. In this way, failure becomes not just an event, but an investment in your future success. Another important aspect of learning from failure is adaptability. When one approach fails, it forces you to rethink your strategies, to innovate, and to try something different. Many of the greatest inventions and breakthroughs were discovered through failed attempts that revealed a better way forward. Failure pushes you to be creative, to think outside the box, and to evolve beyond your current limitations. It prevents stagnation by constantly challenging you to improve. Those who are unwilling to fail often stick to what is safe and familiar, but in doing so, they miss opportunities for innovation and growth. In contrast, those who learn from failure are constantly improving, adjusting, and moving closer to success with each attempt. This adaptability is what allows them to thrive in changing environments, to overcome obstacles that stop others, and to seize opportunities that only persistence can uncover. Failure also strengthens emotional intelligence. It teaches empathy, because once you have experienced setbacks yourself, you understand and appreciate the struggles of others. It teaches humility, because it reminds you that no one is perfect and that everyone has room to grow. It teaches gratitude, because after going through difficulties, you learn to appreciate success more deeply when it comes. Emotional intelligence is a crucial factor in leadership, relationships, and long-term success, and failure is one of the most powerful ways to cultivate it. Leaders who have faced and learned from failure are often more compassionate, more grounded, and more effective in guiding others through their own challenges. In this way, failure not only shapes personal success, but also strengthens the ability to influence and inspire others. The fear of failure is often worse than failure itself. Many people never attempt their dreams because they are paralyzed by the possibility of failing. Yet, ironically, by avoiding failure, they also avoid success. The path to success is paved with failures, and the sooner you accept this, the faster you can progress. Each failure faced and learned from diminishes the fear of failure, because you realize that failing does not destroy you, it refines you. You begin to understand that failure is temporary, but quitting makes it permanent. By embracing failure as a teacher, you free yourself from fear and give yourself permission to aim higher, to take bold risks, and to reach for goals that once seemed out of reach. Fear shrinks, courage grows, and success becomes possible when you stop seeing failure as something to avoid and start seeing it as something to embrace. Learning from failure also requires reflection. It is not enough to simply fail. You must take the time to analyze what went wrong and why. Reflection turns failure into wisdom, ensuring that mistakes are not repeated, but instead become stepping stones toward improvement. Journaling, feedback, and self-analysis are powerful tools in this process. By recording your failures and the lessons learned, you create a roadmap for future attempts. Over time, this collection of lessons becomes one of your greatest assets, guiding you away from repeating old mistakes and toward more effective strategies. This process transforms failure into experience, and experience into wisdom, making each failure a valuable investment in your journey. Ultimately, the ability to learn from failure is what defines true winners. Winners are not those who never fall, they are those who rise every time they do. Every failure carries within it the seed of success, but only if you are willing to look for it. By learning from failure, you gain knowledge, resilience, adaptability, humility, and courage. You stop fearing mistakes and start seeing them as allies. You stop running from challenges and start embracing them. You stop doubting your potential and start realizing that every setback is simply setting you up for a greater comeback. Those who learn from failure are unstoppable because nothing can permanently defeat them. They turn losses into lessons, pain into power, and obstacles into opportunities. Failure ceases to be an enemy and becomes one of the greatest teachers in life. Discipline over motivation is one of the most powerful principles that determine long-term success, because while motivation is often fleeting, discipline is steady, reliable, and unshakable. Motivation feels like a burst of energy, a spark of inspiration that pushes you to take action, but the problem with motivation is that it comes and goes. Some days you wake up feeling unstoppable, ready to conquer the world, but on other days you feel tired, uninspired, and unwilling to move forward. If your success depends only on those fleeting moments of motivation, your progress will always be inconsistent. Discipline, however, does not care about feelings, moods, or fleeting bursts of energy. Discipline is the decision to do what needs to be done, regardless of whether you feel like it or not. It is the ability to follow through on commitments, stick to routines, and remain consistent even in the absence of excitement. Those who master discipline create habits that sustain them when motivation fades, and it is these habits that carry them through to success. The difference between people who achieve extraordinary results and those who fall short is rarely motivation, because almost everyone feels motivated at some point. The difference is that winners develop discipline that keeps them moving forward when motivation disappears. Think of athletes who train daily, waking up before dawn to practice while others are still asleep. They do not feel motivated every single day, but they have built discipline that keeps them showing up regardless of how they feel. This is why they improve, grow stronger, and eventually reach the top of their field. In the same way, a writer who commits to writing a certain number of words every day, even on days when inspiration is absent, eventually completes a book, while someone waiting for motivation may never finish a single chapter. Discipline bridges the gap between intentions and achievements. Without discipline, dreams remain dreams. But with discipline, dreams become reality. Discipline is about building habits that align with your goals. When an action becomes a habit, you no longer rely on motivation to do it. It becomes automatic, a part of your daily routine. This is why discipline is far more powerful than motivation. Motivation is emotional, but discipline is structural. It builds a framework for your life that supports progress. For example, if your goal is to become fit, motivation might get you to the gym once or twice, but discipline is what gets you there consistently for months and years, turning fitness into a lifestyle. If your goal is to build a business, motivation might get you started, but discipline is what keeps you working through long nights, setbacks, and slow progress until the business grows. Discipline creates consistency, and consistency compounds into greatness. The daily act of showing up, regardless of mood, creates momentum that motivation alone can never provide. Another important truth about discipline is that it builds character. When you practice discipline, you train yourself to resist temptations, distractions, and excuses. You prove to yourself that you are in control of your actions, not a slave to your moods. This self-mastery builds confidence because each time you follow through on your commitments, you reinforce the belief that you can rely on yourself. Many people lose confidence because they make promises to themselves and then break them, waiting for motivation to carry them but never developing discipline. Every broken promise weakens their self-belief, but every act of discipline strengthens it. Over time, discipline becomes not just a tool for achieving goals, but a core part of who you are, shaping your identity as someone who does what needs to be done, no matter what. This identity becomes powerful because once you truly see yourself as disciplined, your actions naturally align with that belief, and success becomes inevitable. Discipline also creates freedom, a truth that may seem contradictory at first. Many people resist discipline because they think it limits their freedom, forcing them into rigid routines. But the opposite is true. Without discipline, you are controlled by impulses, distractions, and short-term desires which ultimately limit your potential. With discipline, you gain control over your time, your habits, and your direction, which gives you the freedom to create the life you truly want. For instance, financial discipline allows you to save and invest, creating financial freedom later in life. Health discipline allows you to stay strong and energetic, giving you the freedom to live fully. Work discipline allows you to achieve goals, opening doors to opportunities that others miss. In this way, discipline is not a prison, but a path to greater freedom, because it allows you to take charge of your future instead of being at the mercy of fleeting feelings. While motivation depends on external triggers, such as inspiring speeches, success stories, or sudden bursts of emotion, discipline comes from within. It is a choice, a decision you make and reinforce daily. This is why discipline is far more reliable than motivation. Motivation fades quickly once obstacles appear, but discipline thrives in difficulty. It is in the hard moments, when progress feels slow and results seem distant, that discipline shines brightest. The student who keeps studying when the subject feels difficult, the athlete who keeps training after losing a game, the entrepreneur who keeps working after multiple failures, all are driven by discipline, not motivation. They understand that results come not from temporary excitement, but from consistent effort over time. This mindset is what separates achievers from dreamers. Dreamers wait for motivation to strike, while achievers build discipline that keeps them moving even in silence. Developing discipline requires structure and intentionality. It begins with clear goals, because discipline without direction is just rigidity. Once goals are clear, discipline is about creating daily routines, habits, and systems that support those goals. For example, waking up early to work on personal projects before the day's distractions take over is an act of discipline. Setting boundaries with time and energy, refusing to waste hours on meaningless distractions, is another. The more structure you create around your goals, the less you depend on motivation to act. Over time, these disciplined choices accumulate, and what once felt difficult becomes natural. This is the compounding power of discipline. The small actions you repeat daily build into massive results that seem impossible to those who rely only on motivation. Discipline also demands sacrifice. To remain consistent, you must give up certain comforts, pleasures, and distractions. This is often where people struggle, because motivation rarely demands sacrifice, but discipline does. Discipline means choosing long-term rewards over short-term gratification, choosing growth over comfort, and choosing progress over procrastination. Every act of discipline is a decision to prioritize your vision over your impulses. This is why discipline feels challenging, but it is also why it is so transformative. Each sacrifice strengthens your ability to delay gratification, and this skill is one of the most reliable predictors of long-term success. The ability to say no to what feels good now in order to achieve something great later is what makes discipline far superior to motivation. Another aspect of discipline is consistency, and consistency is the silent force behind greatness. One workout will not make you fit, one study session will not make you an expert, and one act of effort will not bring success. But repeated consistently, those actions create transformation. Discipline ensures consistency because it is not dependent on how you feel on any given day. This is why disciplined individuals often surpass even the most talented or motivated individuals. Talent and motivation may provide an advantage in the short term, but discipline wins in the long term, because success is always built over time. Consistency creates habits. Habits create results, and results create success. Without discipline, consistency collapses, and without consistency, success is impossible. Discipline also protects you from the ups and downs of life. Motivation is easily shaken by failures, rejections, or setbacks, but discipline keeps you grounded. Even when things don't go as planned, discipline keeps you moving forward. This steadiness creates resilience, because you no longer depend on external factors to keep you going. You have built an internal engine that continues regardless of circumstances. This inner strength allows you to handle challenges without giving up, to endure difficulties without collapsing, and to keep moving until success is achieved. Discipline does not eliminate challenges, but it ensures that challenges do not stop you. This is why discipline is often called the backbone of success, because without it, even the strongest dreams collapse under pressure. The beauty of discipline is that it is available to everyone. You do not need extraordinary talent, wealth, or luck to develop discipline. It is a skill, And like any skill, it can be developed through practice. The more you practice discipline in small areas of life, waking up on time, sticking to routines, keeping commitments, the stronger it becomes. Over time, this strength spreads into larger areas of life, enabling you to take on bigger goals with confidence. Discipline is not about perfection, but about persistence. Even if you slip at times, the habit of returning to your commitment strengthens your discipline. Eventually, you build an unshakable foundation that no challenge can break. This foundation becomes the platform from which you achieve all other goals, because discipline is the root from which success grows. Resilience in the face of setbacks is one of the most defining qualities of individuals who rise above challenges and reach remarkable levels of success. Life is filled with moments that test our strength, determination, and belief in ourselves, and it is not a question of whether we will encounter obstacles, but when. Everyone faces setbacks, plans fail, opportunities are lost, mistakes are made, and sometimes life delivers blows that feel almost impossible to recover from. What separates those who eventually succeed from those who remain defeated is resilience, the ability to absorb the impact of setbacks, adapt to the circumstances, and keep moving forward with determination. Resilience is not about avoiding pain or pretending difficulties don't exist. It is about acknowledging them, embracing them as part of the process, and refusing to let them define or destroy your journey. It is a combination of mental toughness, emotional stability, and inner strength that allows a person to rise again after being knocked down. Resilience begins with perspective. When setbacks occur, many people view them as permanent roadblocks, signs that their goals are unattainable, or punishments for daring to dream big. But resilient individuals view setbacks as temporary, as challenges that exist not to stop them, but to strengthen them. This perspective is powerful because how you interpret an event shapes how you respond to it. A setback can either paralyze you or prepare you, depending on your mindset. When you adopt the perspective that setbacks are opportunities in disguise, you begin to see failures as lessons, delays as tests of patience, and disappointments as redirections toward better paths. This shift in mindset does not make the pain vanish, but it transforms the pain into fuel for growth. It gives meaning to adversity, and with meaning comes motivation to keep moving forward. Resilience thrives on this perspective because it allows you to endure hardships without losing sight of the bigger picture. Resilience is also rooted in adaptability. Life rarely unfolds exactly as planned, and rigid expectations often lead to frustration when reality does not match the vision. Resilient people understand that setbacks require flexibility. Instead of clinging stubbornly to what no longer works, they adjust their strategies, change their approach, and find new ways forward. This adaptability ensures that they are not broken by change but strengthened by it. Just as trees bend with the wind rather than snapping, resilient individuals bend with challenges while keeping their roots, values, vision, and determination firmly grounded. Adaptability also creates innovation, because setbacks often force us to think creatively, to step outside of our comfort zones, and to discover solutions we would never have considered if everything had gone smoothly. In this way, setbacks become catalysts for breakthroughs, and resilience is the quality that allows us to see and seize those breakthroughs. Resilience does not mean ignoring emotions. When setbacks occur, it is natural to feel disappointment, sadness, anger, or frustration. Resilient people do not suppress these emotions, but they do not let emotions control their actions either. They allow themselves to feel, to process, and to release, but they maintain the discipline to keep moving forward. This balance between emotional honesty and emotional control is what makes resilience so powerful. You cannot build true resilience by pretending that everything is fine when it isn't, but you also cannot build resilience by drowning in negative emotions. Resilience is about finding that middle ground where emotions are acknowledged but not allowed to dictate the course of your journey. This emotional balance strengthens mental health and builds stability that can withstand future challenges. The more setbacks you experience and overcome in this way, the stronger your emotional muscles become, and the more resilient you grow. Resilience also relies heavily on belief in oneself. Setbacks often whisper lies into your mind that you are not good enough, that your dreams are unrealistic, that you should give up and settle for less. Resilient individuals refuse to believe these lies. They cultivate self-belief so strong that even when the world doubts them, they remain certain of their potential. This belief does not mean arrogance or denial of challenges. It means a deep inner conviction that setbacks are temporary and that persistence will lead to progress. Self-belief fuels resilience because it prevents you from collapsing under the weight of doubt. It gives you the courage to keep trying, to take another step, to rise after every fall. Without belief, setbacks feel final, but with belief, setbacks feel like chapters in a much larger story that is still being written. Resilience is built through action. Every time you face a setback and choose to rise again, you strengthen your resilience. It is like a muscle that grows with use. The more you practice getting back up, the easier it becomes to do so in the future. This is why resilient individuals often seem unshakable. They have been through enough difficulties to know that setbacks are never the end. They have conditioned themselves to respond with determination instead of despair. This conditioning does not happen overnight. It is developed through repeated choices to keep moving despite challenges. Each time you choose resilience, you expand your capacity to endure, and this capacity becomes one of your greatest assets in life. Eventually, setbacks no longer feel like devastating blows, but like familiar hurdles that you know how to overcome. This shift transforms the way you approach every challenge, turning obstacles into opportunities for growth. Another important part of resilience is patience. Setbacks often delay progress, and impatience can lead to frustration and quitting. Resilient individuals understand that success is not immediate and that delays do not equal defeat. They develop the patience to keep working even when results are not visible, trusting that consistency will eventually bring rewards. Patience gives resilience its endurance, because without patience, even the strongest resolve crumbles over time. Patience allows you to see setbacks not as wasted time, but as necessary parts of the journey. It gives you the strength to keep sowing seeds even when the harvest seems far away. With patience, resilience becomes sustainable, and sustainable resilience is what leads to long-term success. Resilience is also supported by a sense of purpose. When setbacks strike, it is easy to question whether the struggle is worth it. Resilient people draw strength from a clear sense of why they are pursuing their goals in the first place. Purpose gives meaning to pain, and meaning makes the pain bearable. A person driven only by surface-level motivation may quit when difficulties arise, but someone driven by deep purpose finds the strength to endure. Whether the purpose is to provide for family, to make a difference in the world, or to fulfill a personal vision, this deeper why fuels resilience. It creates a reason to keep going when everything else seems to be falling apart. Purpose transforms setbacks from meaningless suffering into meaningful struggles that shape character and destiny. Resilience in the face of setbacks also involves learning. Every setback carries a lesson, and resilient people make it a habit to extract wisdom from every difficulty. Instead of focusing solely on the pain of failure, they ask what went wrong, what can be improved, and what must be done differently next time. This learning process ensures that setbacks are not wasted, but are converted into valuable experiences that prepare for future success. Over time, this ability to learn from setbacks creates an advantage because resilient individuals accumulate knowledge and wisdom that others miss. They transform failures into stepping stones, and each lesson learned becomes a building block in their foundation of success. This continuous learning cycle is one of the key reasons why resilient people eventually rise higher than those who quit when difficulties appear. Support systems also play a role in resilience. Even the strongest individuals need encouragement, guidance, and perspective from others. Resilient people do not try to face setbacks completely alone. They lean on mentors, friends, family, or communities that uplift and inspire them. This support provides strength during moments of weakness, reminding them that they are not alone in their struggles. It also offers fresh perspectives that help them see opportunities within challenges. Surrounding yourself with people who believe in you and your vision strengthens resilience, because when your own belief falters, the belief of others can help carry you through. Building resilience is not only about inner strength, but also about drawing on external support when needed. Creating a balance that sustains long-term growth. Resilience also cultivates gratitude. Setbacks often highlight what is missing or what went wrong, but resilient individuals train themselves to also see what remains, what they have gained, and what is still possible. Gratitude shifts focus from loss to opportunity, from despair to hope. It does not minimize the pain of setbacks, but it provides perspective that prevents discouragement from taking over completely. Gratitude strengthens resilience by reminding you that setbacks are not the whole story, that there is still progress, still blessings, still reasons to keep going. This attitude not only lightens the emotional burden of setbacks, but also fuels a positive mindset that attracts new opportunities and solutions. Gratitude and resilience together create a cycle of strength that keeps you moving forward with optimism, even in the darkest of times. Finally, resilience in the face of setbacks builds legacy. The story of every great leader, innovator, athlete, or achiever includes setbacks that could have ended their journey. What inspires others is not that they avoided difficulties, but that they faced them and kept going. Resilience is what makes your story powerful, because it shows that victory is possible despite challenges. When people see resilience in action, they are encouraged to practice it themselves. In this way, resilience is not only a personal strength, but a source of inspiration for others. It proves that setbacks are not final, and that with courage, patience, adaptability, and self-belief, anyone can rise again. Those who embody resilience leave behind more than success. They leave behind examples that light the way for others, showing that setbacks are never the end, only part of the journey toward greatness.